After you've been trading options for a while, you're probably going to want to know how you're doing. Are you making money with options? Would you have been better off just buying and selling stocks? This is a harder question than you may think. This episode will explore some ways to see your option trading results. We'll briefly go over exporting your broker's transaction log into a spreadsheet, and then we'll start computing things like total premiums collected for puts and calls, and net premiums collected for puts and calls. Then we'll compute a few other interesting metrics like dividends collected, cash interest collected, margin interest paid, and then the profit loss for each underlying stock and its options. Then comes the hard part. We'll discuss something I call opportunity costs. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of tracking your option trading results. We'll be exporting a transaction log from Schwab and pasting it into a Google Sheets spreadsheet. The concept should be very similar with any brokerage or any spreadsheet. This isn't an episode about using spreadsheets, so I'll just be describing the concepts rather than detailing each spreadsheet task. I'll leave it to you to know how to use your spreadsheet of choice. So let's get started. First, we're going to export all your transactions from your brokerage. Make sure you select the time range that you'd like to analyze. Your brokerage might not allow you to export all your transactions over multiple years, so you may have to export 1 year at a time and merge them later. Then find the export feature in your broker and save it to a file. Now let's get that data into your spreadsheet. You can either import it or copy paste. I usually open the transaction log I just exported, this file here, into a text editor, do a little house cleaning, delete some things in that file that aren't useful, then Control A to select all the data, Control C to copy it, and then I paste it into my spreadsheet. After getting the data in your spreadsheet, you'll need to do some cleanup. You'll need to split the data into columns if it's not already. I like to freeze this first row so I can see it as I scroll. That's the column headers. And resize all the data, or all the columns, to the size of the data. I've already done that here, so I leave it to you and your spreadsheet to do this. You'll also probably need to do some more data cleanup. For example, Schwab likes to format some values in its date column like this, which doesn't really work for formatting as a date or sorting. So I trimmed these dates to be real dates with search and replace. Depending on your broker, you may find it useful to do various data cleansing to allow you to sort and group as desired. There may also be useless columns you can just delete. Again, I leave these kinds of tasks to you and your spreadsheet. Once you cleanse the data, you can sort and group it in various ways to start computing some useful or at least interesting metrics. For the Schwab data, we can sort by the action column, with a secondary sort on the description column, to get the transactions grouped in a way that allows doing some interesting totals. I've moved some groups of transactions to a different tab in my spreadsheet and summed the groups for the following types: bank interest collected, here's the sum; margin interest paid, here's the sum; and then finally dividends, and there's the sum. These aren't specific to option trading, but good to see. Here's something more option specific. I've put all my put selling transactions in another tab. My sell to open puts will give me my gross put premium. If I add them all together, and I've done that here, Then my buy to close transactions. These are when I close puts out early, and each time I roll a put, there'll be a buy to close put transaction. And that is this amount. That is this amount here. So you need to subtract the buy to close put premium paid from your gross sell to open put premium collected to get your net put premium, which I've done here at the top. This number is not the amount I've gained from selling puts. I wish it were. To get an estimate of that number, you need to subtract a few more things, like missed gains from puts that didn't execute, like if the stock shot up more than the put premium you collected, and losses from being forced to buy a stock at the put strike price instead of the lower market price. I've done the same kind of grouping and summing with calls here on this tab. And here's the net premium I've made from calls, but again, this is not the amount I've made from selling calls. I wanted to compute that number. I need to subtract things like missed gains from your underlyings getting called away and continuing to go up. But you'd need to assume you wouldn't have sold the underlying in that case. You'd also need to factor in the current value of all your open options to these net premium numbers. You need to subtract the current value of the options you've sold that are still open and add the current value of the options you've bought. Another thing I like to do is to sort and group by each underlying. So let's start back with all the transactions. First, enrich the data with all your currently open option positions and their values. You can do this by manually entering each one or finding a clever way to export the data from your broker and paste it into your spreadsheet. Here I've manually entered mine. I'm going to make sure they're going to sort correctly with the other underlying transactions. The primary sort will be symbol and the secondary sort will be their date. I've done that here for one of my underlyings, Pulte Homes PHM. I've sorted all my PHM transactions by date. I originally sold a put back in May 2022 with a $45 strike and got assigned. I've slowly lowered my cost basis to around $37.64, excluding my current deep in the money covered call, which has a strike of 50. If I'd close it all out today, I'd make a profit of about $11.14 per share. If I wait until January and let this call get assigned or called away, I'll make a profit of about $12.40 per share, which is the 50 strike minus my current cost basis. But I probably won't wait that long. See my episode on what to do with deep in the money covered calls, linked in the description. This is one where I would have been much better off just buying and holding the stock. I probably would have bought it around $46 back when I sold the put. I could sell it today, August 2023, for around $82, or a $36 profit per share instead of $12. But I could give a number of examples where the opposite is true. For example, with Moderna, I'm much better off having sold options. I've been able to lower my cost basis from around $220 to around $140. So I'm $80 per share better off by selling options with that one, although I'm currently down. In general, this will be true. Selling options will help reduce losses, but also could reduce gains. So looking at the complete transaction logs for each of your positions will give you a historical view of how you've done on each underlying. And if you ever lose track of your overall cost basis for one of your underlyings, including its options and dividends, this is how you can recompute it. So how do we compare these results with what could have been? What if we hadn't been selling options and instead were just buying and selling stocks? This will be a lot of guesswork. Trading options affects when you buy and sell the underlying stocks, so you can't really know when you would have bought or sold a stock if you weren't trading options. In other words, there's a butterfly effect. You will reinvest your premiums and funds from getting called away in some other option that you may not have even considered if you weren't selling options. As time moves forward, you'll be getting further and further away from the state of just buying and selling stocks. This may seem like a cop-out, but I haven't found a useful way to make this comparison. The best I can offer is to do all the things previously mentioned in this video, and then also compare how your portfolio has done versus the major indices over the long term. In conclusion, you can compute a lot of objective results to track your option trading performance, but trying to compare your option trading results with just buying and selling stock is guesswork and subjective at best. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know what you think in the comments. How do you track your option trading performance? I'm not a financial advisor, this wasn't financial advice, and have a profitable day.